My Lords, the situation in Epping is already being woefully managed. The police have admitted escorting pro-migrant demonstrators to an asylum hotel, having previously denied having done so, and we know there have been concerning incidents of violent behaviour. Further and larger protests are expected this weekend, and they have already spread from Epping to London, following claims that migrants are being put up in a hotel in Canary Wharf. We on these benches are clear that violence and disorder on our streets is always unacceptable. So can I ask, what urgent steps is the government taking in conjunction with the police to make sure that we do not see a return to the violence of last summer, and how will the Noble Lord the Minister and his colleagues ensure that misinformation which could cause and inflame unrest does not prevail?
I'm grateful to the Noble Lord for his question. Could I hope, help him, that Essex Police have said and issued a statement, and I quote from Essex Police: "There are claims on social media that Essex Police officers bussed protesters to the protest outside the Bell Hotel on Thursday the 17th of July. This is categorically wrong." Now, I can only accept what Essex Police have said. I'm not on the ground there. That is Essex Police's statement. And the Noble Lord will also know, because it is in the statement, that Essex Police also are aware and undertook an arrest of an individual who was subsequently charged, whose trial is due to start on the 26th of August and who's been remanded in custody until that time. I'm therefore not able to comment on that issue anymore. Essex Police have also arrested individuals in connection with the protest, and again, even going back to the previous debate we've just had, peaceful protest is legitimate, but if that peaceful protest crosses over into alleged violent or other activity, then the police have a right to do so, and they have made arrests in connection with that incident as well. So I would say to colleagues across the House and across the nation, peaceful protest is acceptable, violent protest is not, and the police walk a very thin line to ensure that they allow peaceful protest while ensuring that acts of violence or intimidation are not acceptable and are not undertaken. And I look forward to the Noble Lord's support when this House rises to ensure that we maintain that message through the summer.
My Lord, I draw attention to my interest as set out in the register supported by Bram. I also want to thank the police for their work in Epping in Essex. I listened to the Chief Constable just an hour ago making his statement. In particular, I welcome the fact that they have now arrested 10 people, and they also referred to the people who are thugs and vandals, not my words, words of the Chief Constable, who damaged a number of police vehicles, threw projectiles at officers, and injured a number of 8 police officers as well. So we need to be putting these things in perspective. There's obviously an issue relating to asylum hotels. I listened yesterday in the House of Commons to the Minister delivering the same statement and the questioning that there was on that statement. In that response, the Minister said that we will aim to not have anybody in a hotel by the end of this Parliament. That, frankly, my Lords, is too late and too long. So what is the Minister able to tell us about the speeding up of the process of getting people out of hotels where they are dangerous for everyone and certainly do not help asylum seekers in their journey through their passage in this country?
Key to that objective, which is one that I share, is speeding up the asylum claims process. And therefore, one of the things that we have done as a government is to invest in a further roughly 1,000 individuals who are now helping with that processing quickly. Now, it is a long task because there are a large number of hotels. There are a smaller number of hotels in use now than there was on July the 5th last year, but there are still a large number of hotels. And the way to deal with that issue is to speed up that asylum claim, to then allow asylum for those who've been approved, and for those who have not got a legitimate asylum claim, to ensure that we have speedy removal from the United Kingdom accordingly. And that is what the government is trying to do. But in the meantime, he is quite right to do two things. One is to thank the police for their sterling work in terms of protecting society, and also to ensure, as he has said, that those who potentially commit violent acts against the police, or indeed violent acts elsewhere, if they are found by the police and arrested by the police, they will face the process of law, where a judgment will be taken upon them. And the show from last year in Southport shows that did happen to a large number of people who went from peaceful protest to non-peaceful protest, and that is the message that we need to send, is the peaceful protest is legitimate, non-peaceful protest is not.
My Lords, the evidence is that last year, when there were troubles, there was a great deal of misinformation being spread deliberately to encourage disorder. What action can the government take to ensure that only proper information is disseminated and this other activity of telling lies to encourage disorder is squashed?
The government, when it's drawn to their attention or when we examine those matters, will ask for fake posts to be taken down. And it's important that we maintain the integrity of the situation that's happening. And part of the challenge that we do face is to ensure that that people are not led by what I would call fake news or not encouraged by others to take action. But members will know that individuals last year who encouraged people to take illegal action found themselves before the court, and they need to be very careful in relation to actions that are taken at any time, or else the potential is there for further charge, further arrest and further consideration of matters before the courts. That's what happened last year, and I would urge all to look calmly at the situation and to reflect on how best to express a view to their members of Parliament or to the public in a peaceful, orderly way.
I live very close to the town of Epping, having served as the Member of Parliament for the Epping Forest constituency for 27 years until last summer. It has long been recognised that the Bell Hotel is not a good place for asylum seekers to be housed. And I'm sure the Minister will recall that the Conservative Home Secretary closed the Bell Hotel in Epping in April 2024, and the asylum seekers were dispersed to other places. The Minister's colleagues reopened the hotel without any consultation with the District Council, which is somewhat unfortunate. I do, however, join with the Minister in thanking Essex Police for the way in which they are dealing with a very difficult current situation. It should be noted, amongst the misinformation that is out there, that both of the men who've been accused of serious crimes are now in custody awaiting trial. Our justice system is working. But does the Minister agree with me that it's the duty of elected representatives, all elected representatives, regardless of which party they represent, to do their best to encourage community cohesion and to calm down a potentially riotous situation? The Minister has said just about that in these last few minutes. The considerable amount of misinformation that is being spread by a particular political party is unfortunate and is working against community cohesion. Will the Minister join with me in calling everyone involved in the situation in the Epping Forest area and across Essex to stop inciting violence, to call for calm, and to think of the vulnerable people that we should all be protecting?
I'm grateful to the noble lady who knows potentially that constituency better than anybody in this House today, and she brings her wise counsel to the House with her comments this afternoon. It is important that all of us, elected and people who hold office in society, ensure that they compare the position there in a favourable way to ensure that the police have their support, that the criminal justice system is allowed to take its course, and that community cohesion and community engagement is the most important issue before the House today.
Recognise the legitimate fury and frustration of local people, whether in Epping or Diss, about the fact that they feel their voices are not heard in relation to the concerns about hotel and their genuine fear for their children and so on, about crimes that are committed from people staying in the hotels, even if it's a minority of those staying in the hotels. And secondly, on misinformation, does the Minister acknowledge that some misinformation can be in calling those local people far-right thugs, which to a certain extent is the most insulting thing you can call people who are genuinely protesting. Will the Minister distance himself from that misinformation as well as the other misinformation he's mentioned?
I would say to the Noble Baroness, first of all, that any potential crime that is committed anywhere, be it in a hotel or be it anywhere else, and it could have happened in the town centre as well as potentially in any hotel, is a matter for the police to investigate, for the police to charge, and for a jury of peers to make a determination upon in due course. In this case, an individual has been arrested and charged and will be before the court in due course, and I can't comment on the circumstances there. If people have a legitimate view about concerns over a hotel or about asylum or about migrants or about cross-channel people crossing the channel, they have a right to express that view in a peaceful, orderly way. The line is drawn where that protest leads into potential crimes also, and in this case the police have taken action to arrest and potentially to charge individuals in relation to crimes, which equally will go before the courts and be determined in due course. It is the job of all of us to appeal for calm in those circumstances, to ensure that we find political solutions to some of the challenges that we have,